Hey, fellow gamers, look alive. It's BC from A7 Video bringing you the next, and unfortunately, the last Divinity 2, the Dragon Knight Saga episode in the now playing Divinity 2 series. And it's really unfortunate because what you have with Divinity 2 is a game that has a lot of potential to be excellent. If you go back and watch the earlier episodes in this series, like probably the first 10 episodes, you'll hear my elation over the exploration, over the discovery, over the treasure that you can find if you're diligent enough, over how the combat actually allows you to implement a little bit of strategy here and there. But unfortunately, what this game devolves into, if you followed it all the way to the end of the Ego Draconis chapter, which is the main core of the game. I know I keep calling them chapters, but that's usually in-game the easiest way to relate to them. And I'm actually not recording this live. You're watching footage from the first main quest of the Flames of Vengeance chapter, or what is really a DLC pack. And unfortunately, it takes probably 2 hours to get to that point because you have to basically run around and be the town of Alaroth's mailman. It is a fetch quest festival, one that I'm not going to spend another minute of my life playing. I'm very disappointed with it. But again, my disappointment wouldn't be so great. Like if the game just sucked, I never would have got this far. What's disappointing is that the game lures you in with a lot of nice, not perfect, but a lot of fun things to do. And then right at about the climax of the Ego Draconis chapter, the main part of the game, it just devolves and degrades itself from there all the way through the ending, all the way to what is now the Flames of Vengeance, which I am probably, at the time of this recording, I've actually played more than what I've shown you. I'm probably, I want to say, 3/5 of the way through that part of the game, at least. And, 95% of that 3/5 has been fetch quests. Run here and get me a suit of armor so I can be in the army. Run into my house that's on fire and get my wedding ring. Hey, come do a stage play with me, but first you got to go turn yourself into a woman. I guess the developers thought the quests were funny and they try to get real articulate with the NPCs, and it just doesn't work. It's just a fetch quest simulator, and it's not acceptable. Now, I've read the end of the story. I've read to the end of the game, and there's this huge epic fight at the end of the game, but frankly, it's not worth getting to. I've actually heard that it's slightly unbalanced and frustrating for people to actually play it, even though it's probably slightly okay to watch. But I don't get it. I don't get how you take a game, you kind of bait and switch everybody with, man, this game's really fun. Yo, I can turn it to a dragon. And then at the end of Ego Draconis, the difficulty, as I've said in past videos, ramps up, not because the game is hard, but because it won't let you have any XP to level and get the skill points that you need to be able to match your enemies in any real competitive way. You can fight and win, as you've seen. I've done it, but it's not in a fun way. It's just you're kind of limited and you just kind of squeak by. If you enjoy squeaking by, that's cool, but most people that like challenge in their games like the challenge to not be artificial. And all of the challenge in this game is not based on the combat or the strategies you have to implement in the combat. It's all based on artificial means of making the player weaker than the enemies. And that part was that bordered on unacceptable. But then you get to the Flames of Vengeance, which completes the Dragon Knight Saga. You get that add-on, and it's just a fetch quest simulator, one that I'm not going to spend any more time playing or for. I just think, I've said this before, I made myself a promise. I'm not going to play whack games. I'm not going to play whack games until up to the completion, unless there's something like if there's a humorous value I can get, like a game like Total Recall on NES is so horrible that it's hilarious. You could make a show out of that. What I can't make a show out of, and I tried, I think that I did 4, or this may even be the 5th episode of the Flames of Vengeance, and all you get to watch me do is walk around talking to people and running their errands. That's not cool. And I did that on faith, thinking that eventually, okay, the game's going to open up. It's going to let me take my dragon form again. I'm going to get to use the dragon tower. I'm going to get to fly around. I'm going to get to do some quests out in the woods like I was doing. No, I've read the end of this DLC. The freaking whole Flames of Vengeance takes place in Alaroth, in the town that you cannot leave until the last epic battle. And what you do in Alaroth is you're chasing the main storyline, but in order to progress it, you're having to run all these errands for people. Go pick this flower for me and give it to my niece, who'll turn it into a magical perfume that you can bring back to me. F you. I'm not doing any of that. Well, of course, I did do it. But had I known that this is what the game was going to devolve into, had I read ahead, which I don't often do because I kind of have faith that I'll get through the game or I won't, but I'm not spending another freaking analog stick, a button press minute on Divinity 2, the Dragon Knight Saga. And I'm actually going to use this video, and then I named it in the subtitle, do not purchase this game. I don't care how cheap it is. If you want to play Divinity 2, hear me though, I'm saying do not purchase Divinity 2, the Dragon Knight Saga. Don't do it. Don't waste your time because it's a waste. Now, if you want to play Divinity 2, I'd say it's okay to go find an old copy of Divinity 2, Ego Draconis, which was the original game, the one I played back in the day and actually enjoyed. I may still do a review just for that portion of the game, but the Dragon Knight Saga, which is made such by this horrible DLC, no, sir. I don't care if they're giving it away. Don't even download it. I mean, if it's free, download it, but don't play it. Don't waste your time. But that's it. Do not mess with Divinity 2, the Dragon Knight Saga. I'm leaving it alone. This is going to be the final episode. I'm done. I'm going to move on to something more enjoyable and keep it moving so that you guys can actually watch something that's fun to watch and I can actually make something that's fun to play and do commentary on. I can't stand the fact that this game devolved into this nonsense, but I've ranted long enough. Thank you for watching. Thank you for taking the time out to hear what I had to say for the final episode of Divinity 2, the Dragon Knight Saga. Don't buy the game. If you're dying to play Divinity 2, just get Ego Draconis. And I'm sorry to those of you who saw my early videos and decided to purchase maybe the Dragon Knight Saga. My humblest apologies to each and every one of you, because I know my early videos would make one think that this game is really good. And honestly, for the first 3/4 of Ego Draconis, the game is in my opinion, really good. I wouldn't say it's excellent, but it's really good. It's at least a 7. But yeah, it's a dang shame. It's BC A7 video, man. Sorry and thank you. Let me tell you all peace and Godspeed. We'll see you back here next Alloy 7 video.